Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, except not. It's Hot D. I keep wanting to say the rewatching, but it doesn't really count because we haven't watched this before.
It's not really accurate.
But it is a Return to Westeros HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you a greatest hit from 2022. Do not call in with your requests. In this episode, we are going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 3, Second of His Name, in which Daemon decides that he is really not interested in accepting any help from his brother and goes hard on the Crabfeeder. Very satisfying. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right. So it's time to talk about this.
It is. I've been waiting all week to talk about this. We really got to do something about the schedule, but I don't think we're going to be able to, guys.
We're not going to be able to. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, these episodes are going to come out after the actual show drops a new ep, and that is just going to be the way it has to be.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Maybe
next year we'll get this fucking fixed. But we record on Saturdays, so it's a little difficult.
Yeah, maybe by the time the show drops the second season, my entire life circumstance will be so wildly different that we can just record like whenever we fucking feel like it. But until then, kiddos.
Indeed. So this you and I talked via text about some issues that I felt with this episode. And I've had some time to think about it. And I think I'm going to say I take a lot of it back. Okay. Not all of it, but a lot of it. I think my issue that I am struggling with as somebody who read this book is I'm making the mistake of taking what was written as at face value.
Mm-hmm.
And really the point of this is supposed to be that it shouldn't be taken at face value because people who have their own like agendas are the ones writing these stories, these accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm reading and sort of taking as like, oh, it was this way, it may not have been. It maybe was kind of that way. And they liked the guy, so they softened it up. And actually, he was an indecisive, weak pain in the ass. And so I'm going to try and just let go of my feelings of what I was like expecting to see.
Right.
And what I interpreted. And let them be like, no, here's how it really went. And what you read is their interpretation of this.
Okay. I think that's
probably
going to be helpful for you going forward.
Agreed.
It's interesting because one of the things you did mention about reading Fire and Blood also, and how you had read the Princess and the Queen ages ago, and that there was a bit in the text that had like sort of contradictory accounts, right? Where it'd be like one person was like, this is how it happened. And then there was like some jester or somebody, I think like Mushroom or something, who had like, whose take on the same events were so wildly different and usually more fun and like way more debauchery. So I like the idea of thinking about what you've read prior as being the sort of interpretation of one person. One person's account, you know, and now this show is giving us, I wouldn't even say the show is telling us how it really was, because I don't know, but maybe just the show is just giving us another interpretation of what happened. Yeah. Did you come to that, like you said, it was after you and I chatted, so it was after you had watched this episode. Did you go back and rewatch this episode?
No.
Okay.
No, that really came from I don't even remember where I saw it, but it was a comment back and forth with people talking about the way that somebody was written and going, yeah, but remember, he really liked the Targaryens and respected them, so he was going to put that in a good light. And I was like, oh, right. That's like the thing with this book, is that all of it should be sort of taken with a slant and side-eyed just a little bit. You know?
Gotcha.
And it sort of just helped me reset, because full disclosure, what I was saying to Rashawn in the text that I was a little bit bummed by was I had been sort of interpreting Viserys as being supportive of his daughter because he actually believed in her as a leader. And he has her be a cupbearer, yes, when she's very young, but he also has her like sit at the foot of the throne and learn from his ruling, and definitely involved her in learning about things. Whereas in the show, they're having him kind of keep her like out of everything in an obvious way. And because of the way that was presented in the book, I was disappointed to see him be somebody who seemed to be, and in this episode, it's really particularly hammered home, regretting that he made her his heir and that there was no alternative, and that he was like forced into this position and wished that he could get out of it. And that wasn't the vibe that I got when I was reading. But also, maybe he just knew how to, you know, keep a firm face on things.
Right.
And he really did kind of regret it. And maybe there were issues with that. I just personally had been looking forward to seeing a man who was like going to stand up for his daughter and was giving the finger to everybody around him who was telling him, we can't do this, she's a woman, and basically being like, yeah, but she's really fucking smart, so literally who cares? And that was what I was kind of primed for, which was going to be like just a nice thing to have a dude believe in his daughter. And instead we're getting a guy who's kowtowing a lot to the people around him who are giving strong impressions. They don't want her involved in conversations, so he isn't including her. And that just personally is disappointing, because it wasn't what I was hoping to see.
Right.
So that's just my thing. And I think that's like part of the overall, like the vibe of this show has been, and they said this from the start, trying to show the experiences of women in this universe. And there are times where it feels like they want the experiences to be as extreme as possible to make a point. And so they're making Rhaenyra be something that he kind of regrets doing in order for that to extreme to be present here. I don't necessarily think it was. I feel like that is them just doing the thing where they spin it to make it worse because they just like doing that. But, you know, I don't know. I'm just, I have to accept that they're likely going to take every situation and make it more misogynist than it was. And I just have to sort of like be cool with it. And I won't be cool with it, but I'll just like not hammer on it. You know?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming to sort of to terms with reconciling your expectations based on what you've read and what you were hoping for the show, which is sort of like a place we all are familiar with, you know, when we find out a thing is going to come to our screen and we're hopeful that they tell the story in a way that feels like it syncs up with our experience of the story when we first encountered it. And that sort of disconnect or discomfort when it doesn't meet those expectations, and how sometimes you can work past it, and then sometimes it's just like a non-starter and you're just like, well, nope, this is just not going to be for me.
Yeah.
And I know some people have already tapped out of the show for various reasons. I've seen a lot of people say that they found it boring.
Yeah.
Which
personally, I get that.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. But you know, people come to these things with different expectations, and I think that the show is missing. Well, missing implies that I am missing it. I am not missing it, but the show doesn't have certain really charismatic characters that the audience sort of like hangs their hat on, right? The show doesn't have a Tyrion. I keep seeing people talking about how they miss like having a Tyrion around.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's for I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is people are missing. I don't want to dismiss them and be like, oh, you're just missing like the jokey jokes and the sarcasm, you know. I think that might be part of it. Plus, you know, Peter Dinklage really did like everything with that role, and it was, you know, it's iconic for a reason. But so there's not like really characters like that. And I've seen more than one person sort of lament that. I have to be honest, and it could just be because I'm very easy to please, which my husband would disagree with. But I have really been enjoying it. I've been enjoying sort of the quietness of the show in certain respects, and by that I mean like these scenes we get between Viserys and his daughter, or Viserys and Alicent, or Rhaenys and, you know, Corlys or whatever. When people are just speaking to each other, you know, beyond the dragons, beyond the battlefields, I find those moments really compelling. And I think a lot of it for me personally, has to do with not knowing these characters, you know, and having not read the books. I'm just trying to figure out who these people are. What do they want? You know, what is it that they truly want, and why do they want what they want? And I really like these quiet moments, even though there's like full of characters. Like, I cannot even tell you guys how much I am over Otto Hightower. Y'all thought it was bad last week. I am so over him. But every time he sidles up to whisper in somebody's ear, like, I lean forward, like, what is this motherfucker saying now? This duplicitous ass motherfucker, what is he whispering? And who, you know, every time I'm just like, he is up to shenanigans. What is he trying to accomplish? What is he doing? And why won't somebody stop him? You know? Yeah, I know it's not Game of Thrones. I know it's not, you know, it's not hitting for a lot of people the way that show did. But I find I've been enjoying it.
I think that I was trying to sort of get at this, maybe the first episode or the second episode, where I said that there doesn't feel like there's an audience surrogate who's like sitting back and commenting on things in an obvious way that feels like we're addressing the elephant in the room, which I do miss. And the Starks in the first season set up the sort of heart of everything as being this like this family that seems to be genuine and care about one another, and they have very distinct personalities, but they are also like honest and decent people with like varying levels of straightforwardness, Arya being a real outlier on that.
Right.
And we don't really have anybody in this show that feels like they are performing that role of just telling it like it is. So that for me is part of what is falling a little flat, is everybody feels really self-serious.
Yeah.
I think the same way.
I think that one of the things that this show is missing, well, again, it's missing implies that I'm missing it personally, but one of the things this show doesn't have, like when you talk about the Starks, is this show doesn't have, we haven't met, I don't think, any real, like, outsiders. Like the Starks were outside, like they were a proud house, they were an old house, you know, he was Warden of the North. I don't mean that they didn't have station, but they were outsiders to the intrigue of the kingdom in King's Landing, right? They lived way the fuck up north, and they weren't like mired in the sort of petty, you know, goings-ons of the capital. And then we watch this sort of like air quotes good family be first dragged into that shit and then really like destroyed by it, right? Their family does not come out intact. But House of the Dragon, pretty much everybody we've met so far is right up in it.
Yeah.
You know, and so we don't have, you're right, we don't have like a Stark equivalent because we haven't really met anybody that isn't really invested in the goings-ons of the throne and of the succession and the maneuvering that's trying to happen to put people in positions of it, you know, advantage. So, and that's another thing I like too, is that this is so far really political, you know, and I imagine that is kind of the point of this story. Like as I was watching this episode, and I guess we'll get into it once we really start covering it, but by the end of this episode, we have a Viserys who has come back around to being certain that he made the right decision of naming his daughter heir.
Right.
But we see him waffle on that. And he even admits to her, like, yeah, I wavered, but, you know, I'm steadfast now. But we see him kind of get caught up in, like, well, shit, I got a son now. And maybe I shouldn't have named her. Maybe I acted a little too hasty naming her heir and all that, you know. And watching Rhaenyra, who I've also seen some comments, some commentary, you know, people don't really like her very much from what I can tell. Which I just think is unfortunate, but I get it because she right now at least is occupying the place of a really sort of disillusioned, feeling like undervalued, resentful teenager.
Yeah.
You know, and those are just, even when I was one, I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
You know, it's just, so I get that people are finding her, like, I keep seeing people calling her like sort of unnecessarily difficult, unnecessarily rude. Like, why is she being so hostile? You know, her father's trying. She won't even give him an inch. But, you know, she has been living under this sort of cloud of never being what her father wants her entire life. And then he makes this really grand gesture. And then her worst fear is realized because, yep, he pops out another kid and it's a boy. And she's just like in this space of, you know, just fucking say it and get it over with, you know, just announce it so we can be done with the like fucking theatrics of it all. So I'm still firmly in camp of, yeah, she's got a right to be like saucy and salty about it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the thing with like the overall interpretation being different, because if they hadn't decided to make the uncertainty around her so palpable and include her father in the uncertainty, she wouldn't be acting out this way because she would feel secure.
Exactly.
But that's not dramatic enough. So they make her father less certain because they want her to feel insecure and defensive, which doesn't make her fun to watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't make her father fun because you begin to really lose respect for him. And just in general, you talking about how there's no outsiders, I think that really does get to the heart of what I was saying last episode about how there's always got to be somebody in the scene who like explains how something is supposed to work so that you can see why this is offensive in the moment or, you know, breaking with tradition. Without there being any outsiders, what you've got is an heir and a king that both seem to act like they don't know what's expected of them. Because we have them deciding that they are going to, so her reaction to a Lannister approaching her feels wildly out of proportion to me, because of course they're going to be approaching you. Of course your father's going to be looking. That's what your function is to create an alliance. That's the point of view. And
right.
You know that. You grew up with people all around you functioning as this, and it is fully an expectation. So when she balks, I don't get it. And it's similar with Viserys and, my wife and son are dead. I don't want to be talking about the succession right now. Yeah, but you're king and you should know this is expected of you. Right. And so they have to be pushing back in a way that doesn't feel genuine to me, because they need to create a drama in this that would normally be done by bringing in somebody from the outside who is asking questions and pushing back and being like, well, doesn't this seem a little bit soon? And they don't have anybody to do that. So that is kind of what's like getting under my skin about the way that it feels like they've been sort of forced to write it.
Yeah.
Due to that.
I have to admit, I kind of have been enjoying both Viserys and Rhaenyra's sort of never-ending shock that they are going to be held to standards based on their station and their position. And I think the reason why I'm enjoying it is because there's something about the idea of monarchy, especially considering the fucking queen just died, right? There's a weird double-edged sword, and the show like speaks about it plainly too. There's a really weird that doesn't make sense when you think about it on paper, that you could be given the most powerful position by right of God, right? That's like being a monarch is all about like divine, I'm better than you. God has anointed me. Or for the Targaryens, we're like, we are somehow better than regular human beings. Look at our dragons as proof, right? Having that, believing that you are touched by God to rule has to do something to your head, right? That is almost impossible for us little people to imagine. But then you couple that sort of limitless power with rules, and there's shit you have to do. And to me, it feels like that would be an eternal battle of both being the most powerful person any fucking where literally no one can tell you shit about shit. But low key, they can tell you shit about shit, because these motherfuckers says you have to get married, and you know what? You do. It's a weird sort of like dissonance, right? So I appreciate seeing this sort of like battle that doesn't, like, as an outsider and you're watching and you're like, yeah, that job comes with fucking real responsibility. There are real duties that you have to perform. There are things that are expected of you, and you have to do it because that's the fucking deal. And then you match that with also people being like, you can do whatever the fuck you want anytime you want. It's got to be a really weird thing in your head. So and then when she calls him, when he is lecturing her about the importance of marrying later on, and how dare she act like this is a shock and a surprise, right? Like, this is part of your duty. You knew this was coming. And he even starts to tell her about, being promised to her mother when he was 17. And she's just like, I have already heard the story, sir. Please spare me. And then she just says to him, to his face, well, you know what? You should have fucking married Lena if it was about being advantageous. Is that right?
You almost got there. It's fine.
And he has to stop and be like, okay, you know what? You kind of got me there. I didn't make the marriage that would have been the best for the realm, but I did make a marriage. I found a in between, and I hope that you find that in between as well. That sort of this is your duty, bumping up against how dare you tell me what the fuck I should do? Do you know who I am? I don't know. It just worked for me.
And I get that. I think it's not the like just straight up, I don't want to do this. It's the act of shock, the surprise of it. It's one thing to just be like, ugh, I have to go and wash the dishes, and I don't want to wash the dishes. If it was like, oh God, I got to get married. I don't want to do this. But there's always this like taken completely by surprise, the audacity of the expectation that I'm like,
that's the other thing too. Is it the expectation that she finds, so audacious, or is it that like, because later on in the episode, Viserys yells at her because that he has been trying to have this conversation with her and she has not been open to it. So when she acts all surprised and offended, it felt to me more like, not that, the expectation is that I have to get married, but that, you didn't even do me the courtesy to tell me that you were like going to do this, that this was what your plan was. But then later on, he says right to her, well, I have been trying to tell you, like, you know, this is coming, and I have been trying to have this conversation with you, and you have been unwilling. So yeah, I did just sort of spring it on you, because what were my other fucking choices?
Right.
You were in this land of denial, and shit has to happen. It has to happen. So yeah, they're here now, and they want your hand. And I'm sorry if you didn't like the way you discovered it, but you should have fucking sat down and had this conversation with me. Also, we do get another time jump. So there's 3 years now, at least. Like, the baby is 2. So we know that the Stepstones War has been 3 years, at least, by the time this episode has happened. So we are being asked to fill in a lot of the blanks in this episode.
Yeah.
And make a lot of connections that we didn't get a chance to see happen in real time. Which actually I'm not mad about either. I think it's probably I don't know how long and involved the story is, but for like, I guess they're getting 10. Are they getting 10 episodes or 8?
Yeah,
I don't
10.
even know. Is it 10?
It looked, when I looked, it was 10.
I feel like, jumping ahead a little bit is probably wise, storytelling wise.
I have no problem with the jumping around. I feel like that's definitely necessary, because the political implications need a little bit of time to percolate to turn into anything.
Right.
So that's totally fine. And I see where you're coming from. I think that, again, it was just like, the concept that I had was that some of these things that they're balking at aren't the things that they actually, they have bigger fish to fry in the books, it feels like. And here it feels like everything is such a battle. And that is kind of what I think is boring.
He says that to her in this episode. He's like, does every fucking thing have to be a fight? And I was on my couch like, as a matter of fact, it does.
I think that's it for me, though, because I have to agree with people who find it boring. I have not been drawn in by these. And if we weren't covering it, I don't think I would have watched it on time. I probably would have like gotten around to it eventually. But this is not feeling like appointment television for me. And I lose half of what happened mentally right away, because so much of it feels like, in 2 seconds you're going to reverse all this and it's not going to matter, or they're fighting about this inevitable thing that has to happen, and I just have to watch them argue about it for 20 minutes when I know no matter what either of them says, it's going to happen, because that's how it works. And I don't care about watching them argue, because they should know. So I think that's what's feeling kind of tedious.
Gotcha.
So anyway, we'll see. Maybe it begins to like pick up a little bit. And it feels like Daemon is the only spot in this where they're like, all right, well, we don't have any action going on anywhere else. So we need to use this guy for all he's worth and make sure that every time we see him, he's doing something wildly violent to at least like keep things from only being conversations in rooms.
The fucking episode opens with the Crabfeeder, who these close-ups we get of him in this episode. My God.
He's got some burns, it looks like.
He is not well. I'm reading that he's got grayscale. Everybody is saying that that's what's happening. He's got grayscale.
Oh, interesting.
Which when I watched the rewatch, because I did watch this twice, I was like, oh yeah, that's what the fuck is going on. It's all on the side of his face and down his neck. It is no bueno. But it opens up with them like they're putting another guy to another stake, and it's a sea snake guy, and he is just being really like valiant. Just you're gonna fucking pay for this. The sea snakes are gonna have your head, and it's really gruesome. Again, he's like this the nail right through the post, and then there's dragons. And the guy is just like, yes, my liberators are here. All hail Prince Daemon.
Bless him.
And then this fucking dragon just... it just smushes him. And I don't mean to read too much of anything into anything. But y'all, if that dragon is not capitalism...
Yep.
Coming to fucking save you and then just stepping right on your ass and destroy everything around you. Oh, I felt so bad.
When that dragon landed, Owen and I were both like, oh, he's about to burn to death. This dragon's just going to light his ass up.
Right. That's what you think, right? Like,
so I was pleased that it was a foot instead, because that was a surprise.
I thought the same thing. I was like, well, he's just going to burn the whole field up because, they're just lighting everything on fire. And also, I wasn't expecting the hostage to yell out, like, save me. I'm, Prince, I'm right here. Like, I just thought that the soldier was going to kind of die understanding that the dragon was going to light these motherfuckers up, and he would take solace in that, right? I did not expect for him to be like, yes, come save me, because no, that's not happening.
That's not how this works,
right? And then the something about like just stepping on him is so much more disrespectful than just lighting him on fire.
It's not even in the course of the battle part. It's simply landing to get off the dragon. And it's like much less distinguished. He perished in dragon fire is like a lot more dignified and
that's something you tell people when you get on the other side. Like, hey, you know how I died? Dragon fire, right? Like that hits different than just being like, yeah, I got stepped on and smushed to death, and like nobody even noticed that I was down there. And Daemon is we find out in the scene that the Crabfeeder is hiding in this cave in the Stepstones, and that comes out like to be much more significant later. But yeah, he's just like trying to get them to come out, and this motherfucker is not coming out of his cave. Why would he do such a thing?
Yeah,
it's dragons outside. I'm not coming out.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I'm like, just position the dragon at the entrance of the cave and have him breathe fire down the cave.
I thought the same thing, and I'm sure that there is some reasonable logistical thing happening where somebody will be in a comments like, no, he couldn't do that because X, Y, and Z. Maybe the size is the problem. I don't know. But I thought the same thing, like just land and light that bitch up. Just do it. But I don't know. Apparently that's not an option.
So then we go to the 2-year name day celebration for the prince with his white blonde hair. And all of the gentlemen talking about how, he has a male heir. And the assumptions that this guy will be the one that's named. And there's some dude talking to Otto Hightower here. And I do not recall this motherfucker one bit. Do you know?
I don't either. I do not know. And I kept hoping the closed caption would say his name, but mine didn't. It just had the conversation. So I
was watching this and was full on like, you're out here really throwing around your weight like you're somebody. Who the fuck are you? He's trying to give Otto like instructions. I don't think he's meant to be Otto's father because he's sure not older. The
closed captions just say noble. So I guess he's just like a high lord of some kind. Maybe if we paid more attention to what he was wearing, there'd be like a sigil or something to give us a clue. But
yeah,
and
he's just like pretty aggressive for somebody that apparently doesn't really matter. So, I guess that's pretty accurate to dudes.
Yeah, really. He's every fucking meme you've seen. And and the other thing he says when he's talking to Otto, he says brother. He calls Otto brother, but I don't know if that's literal or what the deal is. But yeah, he is telling Otto that you need to get the king on the same page, that Aegon needs to be declared the heir and put all this other silliness aside.
Right.
And Otto is agreeing because he's a bitch, but he's also being like, well, but I don't think Viserys, thinks that that's how this is going to work. And then we meet Tywin Lannister. I was just asking about these motherfuckers too.
Yeah.
Just last week, I was like, where are the Lannisters? Do they show up? And not only do they show up, but they are just the most Lannistery Lannisters that ever Lannistered anywhere.
Indeed.
Like, even if he wasn't wearing the colors and he didn't have, I would know. You would just know. And the first one we meet at the feast isn't even that bad, Tylan. He's like really aggressive with talking to the king about what he thinks needs to happen. And even though the king is like, we're not doing this now, I'm trying to get a plate. He won't fucking shut up about it. And he's talking about the triarchy and the dragons aren't like, the threat they need to be, and how bad the situation is, and how the fighters are kind of losing faith in Daemon. And you think that's the worst. And then you meet the other Lannister later, the one who wants Rhaenyra's hand, and he is 10 times worse.
Oh my God, he's so annoying.
And it just is really something to be like, oh, those Lannister genes are strong.
They always been this way, huh? Yep. That is something that I really do enjoy in fiction. And I don't know how much it plays out in real life, because I've never been somebody who lives in a town with that's small enough that certain families are really known and everybody is like, oh, that's how they are. But I love in fiction, this is something that happens in Anne of Green Gables, that there is a family that everybody is just like, oh, those tacky bitches. Of course they painted this house bright blue. They are so bad at everything. And I really do enjoy the idea that every descendant of this group of people is just tacky. And that is just a fucking trait that genetically is passed down. And I know it's kind of like a fucked up thing to believe, that you just can't escape the tackiness of your genetic heritage. But also, it's fun. It's fun to just be like, oh yeah, he has this last name, and I know I'm going to hate him because he does, I don't know. It's fine for me. I enjoy that.
Well, I mean, they really got somebody that just really, just reeks of all the sort of smugness and arrogance that we have grown to associate with the name Lannister, right?
Yeah.
So it's wildly on brand. And I have to admit, I laughed. There's a fantastic moment at the end of the episode when Rhaenyra is coming back to camp with the boar. And it's just a series of reaction shots to her.
Right.
And there's a really great one that I think his name is Harwin. Looks at her and is just like, yeah.
That was so funny.
It goes to fucking Lannister, and he is just like, no. He is so repulsed and horrified and just like, ew.
Harwin's got the same problem I have with angry people who are covered in blood and clearly are fucking done. Just going, oh, what's up? But yeah, this moment where he's trying to get Viserys to pay attention to what's going on in the Stepstones, and he's like, it waited 3 years, it can wait another 3 days. This was sort of, so in the books he funds Daemon's fight. He has no problem with this. Daemon didn't just run off and do this as a sort of acting out. their relationship is not as frayed in the books as it is in the show, where it's like essentially they're kind of not speaking to one another, you know?
Right.
He doesn't get sent off. Like Viserys in the show banishes him because of what he said in the brothel. In the book, he said this fucked up thing. Viserys is mad at him and declares Rhaenyra heir kind of to punish him. And the declaration of her as heir is what makes Daemon choose to leave. And he's just like, oh, really? It's like that? Well, fuck this then. And that's what makes him go. So the dynamic here is very different because he had been very happy for his brother to be away from court and was just like, oh, good. He wants to go do something that, like, he will be able to butcher as many people as he wants. It won't be him in the gold cloaks, like, you know, just gelding people in the streets. And he'll probably be able to get some booty out of it. Lol. And also get rid of some pirates, which is all good. So he was like 100% about this. And here he could not give fewer shits. Genuinely just can't be bothered to even like have a 5-minute conversation about it.
I love that this is, 3 years now after Corlys and Daemon have started this war without the permission or the leave of the crown. And they are and have been kind of getting their asses handed to them. And the crown for 3 years has just been like, ain't nobody told y'all to go over there though.
Right. Yeah.
And there's this really
that sounds
weird
like
take,
a you problem.
right? There's this take here that I think it's Otto that's speaking, where Otto is like, basically Daemon and Corlys started this shit, but he says if the crown were to interfere now, that would make us look weak, which I thought was really like us. I get what he's saying. He's being like, these guys defied the crown and now we're coming to their rescue because we just let people defy us and we don't handle our business. But to my mind, it's been 3 years. So I feel like that ship has sailed.
You look weak, bitch.
Right. So I feel like Otto's argument in this moment really doesn't hold any real water. And
I don't think it's a real argument. I think he just hates Daemon and is like, good, I hope he dies.
Basically. And I love too that what seems like what spurs Viserys into action later on is finally I have to say, shout out to Lionel Strong. I really am enjoying him.
Isn't he great?
He's great. And I don't know if he counts as an audience surrogate, but I think he might come the closest to being a character that's like, hey, this is what's happening. If you'd like to hear what I have to say, this is what I think maybe you can be considering. And I'm enjoying this actor. It's not like a flashy role at all, but I love so much when Viserys is all drunk and he's like, would you like to hear what I have to say on this matter? After talking about like how Jaehaerys had daughters that practically drove him crazy. And Viserys is all like, oh, what? Maybe you've got a son that my daughter should
love
marry.
that so much.
It's such a great moment. He's just like, well, no. But thanks for, you flatter me, but no. and gives another really, to my mind, good counsel. And I don't know why he's
in the
not
book
hand.
is described as like somebody who everybody thinks, due to his brutish appearance, probably hasn't got a brain in his head. But it turns out that he's just really thoughtful, and so he doesn't speak often because he is always thinking things through. And when he does speak, it's because he has taken a while to deliberate and figure out exactly how he wants to word things. So he has, I think that they cast him really well, because he really does. When you see him sitting at the table and they won't like let him speak, you're assuming it's, oh, well, he's an idiot and they are sick of hearing from him. And it seems like actually it's just that they don't have the patience for him. And they like, if he were as pushy as they are, it would probably do some good, but he's just not. He is going to wait until he has his moment,
Right. Yeah. He doesn't seem, at least at this point, I mean, I'm not going to say he's not political or anything. I mean, he sits on a small council and, he's, consulting the king. So clearly, there's some political activity happening there. But he doesn't, at least at this point, seem like he is working his own individual agenda for power. Right? At least as of right now, his council does seem to be trying to lead Viserys into doing what benefits the realm. Right. And what benefits Viserys, as opposed to like advancing his own individual ambition. And of course, it's early. It's only like the fucking 3rd episode. So, that could, who knows how that's going to go. But that's my take on him so far. And we go to fucking Rhaenyra hit the tree with this poor fucking, I don't want to call him a minstrel, but that's basically what
he is.
He is. I just don't like that word.
Singer?
But, yeah, troubadour. But, and he is tired of the song. She is not tired of the song.
She sure isn't. I love this because I think a lot of us, whomst among us has not, just put a song on repeat until we couldn't stand the sound of it anymore. So I like the idea of like, well, what are the implications of us liking to do that when it's actual people having to perform it repeatedly? And that is extremely awkward, as it turns out.
And then Alicent comes and she is like 13 months pregnant for reasons I don't understand. And we get this.
Well, I can tell you how women get pregnant if it helps.
I would rather not know. I'm going to keep my innocence. This real kind of power play. Who is this poor singer going to listen to?
I feel so
the
bad
queen,
for this poor guy.
Or the princess. And ultimately, it has to be the queen, right? Even I know that. And he finally leaves. And she's here because Viserys has been, through the first couple minutes of this episode, while people have been basically assaulting him while he's just trying to fix a plate, he's been asking where his daughter is. Why? Because she's not here. And so Alicent has come to bring Rhaenyra back. And it is awkward, and there is hostile. It is contentious. And Alicent is pleading at the end like it doesn't have to be this way. And I'm like, are we sure it doesn't have to be this way? I think it has to be this way.
Why does it have to be this way?
Because I guess Alicent doesn't have a say. Once the king decides he's going to marry who he's going to marry, that shit is just what it's going to be, right? But we skipped 3 years. I don't know. Did Alicent, what did she say? Did she protest? Did she not? What did she say to Rhaenyra? Was it anything? Was it nothing? But it's been 3 years. She has now popped out Rhaenyra's literal replacement. You are now your best friend's stepmother. I feel like this sort of awkwardness cannot be held. And to try to force it, like, oh, we can still just be how we were. No, we cannot. Too much has changed. It just too much has changed. And so then we get them heading to the God's Road, the Kingswood. And she has been dragged. Rhaenyra does not want any of this.
No,
and she tells her father, look, these people aren't here for me. This day isn't about me. Not only is this day not about me, but the closest it is to a being about me is a being about how I am no longer heir. These people are not only just celebrating the birth of your son, they are celebrating my replacement. Please do not lie to my face about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because she's not wrong, but I also get that, like, it looks bad for her to just not come. Like, it just, you don't want there to be apparent dissension within the family, even if everybody knows that there is. So there's the keeping face aspect of it, but I do get why she just really could not care less about that.
Yeah. She is definitely salty. And though her position requires her to behave better, she just is not living up to that this day. She is not being her best self this day.
I think that's part of what is is a little bit saddening to me, and this isn't actually something that's like in the book, it was sort of just, again, with what I was hoping for, was I wanted her to be less contentious about things because she is trying to set an example of how competent, capable, and no nonsense she is.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like her just refusing to show up and then later just running off. You're not going to inspire anybody's faith in you, girl. You're acting like a baby. You're a fucking princess who's allegedly heir, and you're mad nobody's taking you seriously when you're acting like a little brat.
Right.
Of course they're not taking you seriously. You're not helping your cause. So I was just like, ugh.
This is the one thing that I do, the one thing that makes me wish we didn't get that time jump, even though I think it's probably better for overall telling of the story, especially for pacing and stuff. But the one thing we miss when they do the time jump, and we're just, I think as the audience, we're expected to sort of assume, is how frustrating these last couple of years have been for her. Right? Like watching her father get remarried, seeing her best friend become queen, having this child, the very first child they spit out together is a fucking boy. They name Aegon, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't see it explicitly, but I feel like, I don't know if it's true, but I'm curious. We talked in the first 2 episodes about how even though Viserys has named her heir and she's like cupbearer at the small council meetings, it doesn't seem like he's doing more with her, you know, as far as preparing her. And I wish we could have seen, or I wish we knew that in the 3 years that have passed, he has done even less than he was already doing. You know, because I feel like we're being asked to assume a lot about what Rhaenyra's frustration is because we didn't get to see it, right?
Agreed.
So I feel like, especially when we get that like over the top scene with the boar, very clearly the show is trying to tell us something about how frustrated she is and how she can barely take a second more of this. But because we didn't see it, it only feels like 3 minutes to us. And why is she overreacting? But you have to, I tried to remind myself, okay, it's been 3 years. And it feels very much to me like it's been 3 years of exactly what the fuck I'm watching right now. And she's tired. So I found myself being much more sort of generous with her behavior than maybe maybe more generous than she deserved, but that's because I was feeling it a lot since the show left so much blank.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And, you know, the whole, the aspect of the time jump, I do think could have been handled slightly better in terms of maybe we get a montage. And there's a way to do a montage to really hammer home. Have you seen Nobody, the movie Nobody?
I have not.
Okay. So this is with Call Saul. What is his name? You know the guy.
I know exactly who you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And the movie starts off with a montage of his daily routine. And he's got 2 kids and he's married and he has, gets up and makes his coffee. He checks his emails. He has to take the garbage out. And every week he fucking forgets to take the garbage out and has to chase the garbage truck. And they have this montage happen about 15 times in a row. And they have it almost an identical routine every day with slight variations, starting off in real time and speeding up 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 until you are so exhausted by the time they finish it and you really get how monotonous everything is. And it's just this sense of, oh, fucking Christ. And not to say that you could apply that exact same principle to this because it's not about a routine life. Right. But you could do something like that to sort of hammer home the experience of being shunted aside and always being second and never really being considered or taken seriously And I think that really could have helped, because I don't think that they have written Rhaenyra to be very, like, somebody that the audience relates to very well.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed to focus on that a little bit more, because it's an unfortunate truth that women who are not sweet are not as likable to audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not to say that we have to make her, quote, likable. We don't have to do that. But making it so that we can understand where she's coming from, at least. You can, this is like the thing with Rebecca and Ted Lasso. Look, I do love her, don't get me wrong. But she's also like kind of a fucking maniac a little bit, and with the shit she pulls. But I get 100% where she's coming from on all of it. And I just wish that we had that with her a little bit more, because I'm rooting for her in the sense that she's in the right, but I'm not rooting for her in the sense that I think she would be a good ruler.
That's something too. Like, there's a we'll probably get to it, but there's a bit later when Allison is actually saying to her father that she believes that Rhaenyra will be a good queen. And it's not really something the show has even spent any amount of time considering, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whether or not she would actually make a good queen. Right now, the show is really focused on whether or not she will get to be queen. Will people allow this to happen, because it's bucking, centuries of tradition. And there hasn't been a lot of conversation or storytelling around whether or not we think she will actually make a good queen. But, hopeful that as the show goes on, we start to see whether or not we believe she will make a good queen or not, I'm curious. Like, I don't know yet. And I'm very curious if she grows into someone that I think, yeah, she should fucking be sitting on the throne. Or will I be like, you know what? It's probably better that she's not, because she's the worst. So they get to the campsite, which is like a small city.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And everybody is there. All the people are there, and they are already like calling this baby your grace, and which I guess technically he is, because he's like the son of a king, right? So you call. Do you know? Wait, your grace is reserved for your king.
I think it's any royalty.
Is it? Oh, well, yeah, because the singer calls Allison your grace. Does he call her your grace when she shows up? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe he says your magic. Either way, whatever he says, Rhaenyra thinks he's talking to her, which is so awkward. I love it.
But they are just out there, like, she is sitting alone in this carriage, y'all, which is a really nice carriage, by the way. And there's a look on her face as she is just inside alone, as everybody is cheering the arrival of her replacement. And it's just a bad time.
Yeah.
It felt so bad for her.
Yeah, this moment, I actually wanted to mention about the fact that it's like a small city, as you said, that there were a lot of like comments about how they're trying to make up for the original Game of Thrones, because I don't know if you recall the hunt that Robert Baratheon goes on.
I do.
Winds up killing him. But they're hunting boar on foot with 3 people and no horses and nobody. And it's just absolutely not how that would have gone. And most of it, we all assumed, was they just didn't have the budget, because horses are a fortune. So they just didn't have it, and they did what they could, but it was not how that would be. And this is them doing the hunt properly. A huge hunt like this would be a big deal, and they would need a lot of people with them.
I can't remember the occasion for Robert's hunt. I felt like Robert's hunt was just like, it's weekend and I want to go hunting.
Yeah, this is certainly like more of a big deal because it's the name day thing. But nevertheless, it would have certainly been more.
It
than,
would have
like,
just been him and like 3 guys,
people, yeah,
and 1 guy carrying wine.
And they absolutely would not be hunting boar on foot. Like, no, wouldn't happen. So, because as we see later, they are not anything to fuck with. And I'm actually going to be posting a meme of, I think I sent you the meme of this boar getting into a dumpster and how huge it is. Did I send that to you?
Oh my God, did you? I don't remember.
I'm going to send it to you right now. But it's certainly, I think, a boar that is outside the normal range of size for a boar. But nevertheless, they can grow to this size. And it is something you tell yourself that they can get really big, it's quite different from seeing the size they get to.
You did send me that.
So it's insane, right? Like, that bitch looks like the Rock in a fur coat. That thing is huge. And I don't feel like I ever truly appreciated. I know I've heard everywhere how dangerous they are and how big they can get and how powerful they are and how, like, weirdly quiet they can be. And yet it never quite registered the way it did until I looked at this photo.
I don't think it's supposed to register in a real way. I don't think we're supposed to understand that in the way that our brains are frequently refusing to accept information about things that we're just like, yeah, no, I don't want to live in a world where that's a thing.
Yeah. Which I completely understand because, like, just the other day I had another photo series that I saw on Facebook that was like, in case you ever lose sight of how truly fucking enormous moose are. And let me tell you, I do lose sight of that. They are dinosaurs. They are absurd. They shouldn't be allowed. Like, they're like an elephant. And I can't, I don't. I think of them as the size of, like, deer.
Yep.
You know?
That's generally how I consider them. But that is not the case. That's not accurate at all.
Yeah, I sent it anyway because I couldn't find where I had sent it to you. But yeah, I didn't realize how big wild boars actually are. Robert Baratheon, this is a formal apology. They are fucking huge.
This one that attacks her in this episode is not even as big as the one that we see that attacks Robert, but it is still fucking like half her body size.
Yeah. Yeah, she would not have made it out if it was the size of his.
Yeah. So, there it is. It just came through. So they're in the big tent and people, there's food and there's wine and everybody is celebrating.
Everybody.
And oh my God, look at the fucking size of this thing.
Right? I'm sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and post this thing right now because I'm thinking about it. But yeah, everybody who is listening to this, by the time you listen to this, it'll have been up for several days and you can go back and find it. But these bitches are too big. It's making me very nervous.
So she walks into the big tent and there are a lot of people here, a lot of people who I do not know, trying to like pay attention to what everybody is wearing so I can get an idea of who is who. And there is a woman who is sort of holding court named Lady Redwine. And I know that name, but I can't, like, I feel like the Red Winds were maybe like in Game of Thrones, they were like from the Reach or whatever. Maybe they're like part of like Highgarden or something. Like maybe they were banners. Am I wrong?
We gotta wait for Austin Armenia to tell us because Lord help me, I do not remember anything. So,
but she is telling this story about a highborn woman named Lady Johanna who has been kidnapped.
Yeah.
And they are speculating on what's going to happen to her, and none of it sounds good. She's basically going to be sold into, sounds like slavery, maybe even sex trafficking. And someone asked, I think it's the same lady. Her name is like, I don't think it's Sierra. It's spelled like it would be Sierra, but I don't think that's how you pronounce it. And
just real quick about Lady Joanna, who has been abducted and sold to a pillow house, if you believe the rumors, is the way that she puts it. In the book, that is 100% true. And that bitch like winds up ruling the roost. And by roost, I mean entire city. because she
right.
is a badass. And it's very fun the way it's referenced, because the guy who's writing the history is like, as absolutely fascinating as her story is, it is not within the purview of this tale, so we will have to move on and not talk about it. And I was like, but why? I want to know what happened. So yeah, maybe we'll get some of her in the show that we didn't get.
That
in the
would
book,
be
but...
nice. So they start talking about the war at the Stepstones and asking Rhaenyra about Daemon, and she just has to be like, I haven't talked to that motherfucker since he pulled that shit with that dragon egg, which is how I feel like. I feel like that's the exact last moment she spoke to him, even though they don't actually say that. And we see Alicent kind of come to Rhaenyra's defense when they're talking about, why Daemon wasn't the heir, and she's just like, the princess was more suited to the role. But it doesn't seem to, like, she says that, and I don't know about Alicent. Yeah. I just don't know about her, you guys. I don't know. She's saying like all the right things in this episode. She seems to say whatever the person she's talking to wants to hear so far. I can't figure her out. There's a scene where she's with her father, and why is her father still sliding into her DM? She's queen now, sir. Why are you still in her bedroom trying to tell her what to do? I was really like irritated by that she's fucking queen and he's still in there like, well, you need to do this and you need to tell the king that, and it would be, you know what I mean? Get out of here. Get out of here. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm really missing like Cersei's energy in this show. That is one thing I'm definitely missing. I am missing the person who just tells people, don't you know who I am?
To fuck all the way off.
Right? Like, I know you're not talking to me. You must be talking to the person standing behind me, because you couldn't be talking to me, right? I kind of missed that.
That's fair.
Even when she was like dead wrong, she just had a sort of an arrogance and a confidence and just you can't be talking to me kind of energy to her that I really, really am missing. But back to Alicent, I don't know. The scene with her and Rhaenyra at the tree, and then this little like ladies kiki circle that's happening later on with her father, later on with Viserys. I just don't know what she wants, or if she wants anything. When her father asked her about her child being king, and she's like, well, of course, who wouldn't want that? And then immediately she's like, oh, but would you want me to raise somebody who would like, supplant his sister's birthright? So I had an inkling that this show, and I think I mentioned this in our text chat, that the show was going to end up being about how Rhaenyra is supposed to be queen, but then Alicent comes, marries Viserys, has these children, and then there's like a struggle, right? And that could still be the thing. I think I just thought that Alicent would be more involved in the struggle. And so far it seems like the struggle is between all these like highborn men, the Otto Hightowers and whoever that mysterious guy is, and these other nobles. That seems to be where it is, which is fine. But I just, for some reason, had it in my brain that Alicent was going to play a much bigger part in championing like her children's right to the throne. And so far, it seems like I don't know. Again, super early, but right now, I just don't know what she's doing, and I don't know what she wants, and I don't like trust her, and I don't know if I'm being unfair. I don't know.
This is the thing. So Rashawn had sent me a meme that was Alicent in the show versus Alicent in the books. And one is a smiling Labrador retriever, and the other one is a person dressed up as a fucking werewolf. And that's pretty, like, it's an exaggeration, of course, but she has a lot more agency in the books. She is somebody who really does have a thing she wants. And while they were friends, there was the age gap, so they weren't as close. And she was like present at court before Viserys even became king. She was like in the room with his father when he was on his deathbed reading to him. According to Mushroom, she was also giving him hand jobs, but I don't believe Mushroom. So, but
so she has a history of sidling up to like the king and being the comfort.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of what I'm saying, though. Do you see what I'm saying with them consistently making the women have less power than they did in the book and less agency than they did in the book? And again, I'm not trying to say that things had to go exactly as they did in the book, but the show is turning all the women into pawns, it feels like, who have no power whatsoever. And while they don't have the same kind of power as the men do, they don't have nothing. They're not completely at the whim of whoever. Mm-hmm. And it just feels like they don't know how to tell a story of the oppression without exaggerating it to a degree. So Alicent, you know, I had said when we were talking about what does she want before this episode, well, she wants to not marry the king and have a normal life and not fuck over her friend. But at this point, I have to agree. They haven't given her any real personality. They don't seem to want her to want anything. Because God forbid she be ambitious either and not be likable. So we're just going to have her be bland and nothing. What is she? What does she enjoy and care about other than talking about her dead mother and going to the Sept?
I don't often like wish for like a heel turn, but I kind of am at this point because I am sort of enamored with the idea of this turning out to be a fight between these two women who I'm supposed to understand and believe are powerful. And I would be here to see that. But I can't tell yet what they're doing with her. Right now, they're not doing a lot. I don't want to say I trust the show, but I'm hopeful that something happens in the near future, whether it's another time jump or something, you know, where as we get into the rest of this episode, right? One of the things that is happening is, we talked about this at the beginning, the sort of this hunt and Viserys wavering, as he put it, on his conviction of making Rhaenyra the heir and not changing just because he's got a son. This hunt, these people, the huntsman, Roy the Royal Huntsman, and whoever else, come and tell Viserys, oh, there's a white hart stag that's been spotted. And that ends up being really important because that is a really like significant omen of sort of like good tidings, right? So everybody is taking it as proof that even the gods want Aegon to be named. They're blessing his name day with this remarkable thing. And you watch Viserys, who we already know, and he repeats it in this episode, seems to be kind of the kind of person that would get his chart done if he knew exactly what time he was born.
100%.
Right? Like,
oh my God.
Okay, I'm not making that up, right? He is, yeah, okay. So this news of this white stag, for him, is like confirmation of his long held desire for this male heir who he sees being born with a crown on his head, that he has kind of put aside since he lost his son and his wife was murdered, basically murdered. I'm just going to go ahead and call it murder because it kind of was murder. And now all that stuff is being like reignited, you know, and he gets caught up in it. But then what they bring him to kill is just a regular old brown one, right? They don't end up tracking the white one. And it becomes for Viserys a kind of a like being brought back down to earth. Like, that sign wasn't what you thought it was. You let yourself get carried away, you know? And we as the audience see Rhaenyra actually see the white stag. It actually just shows up and looks her dead in the face, which I think we're all supposed to take as meaning something very significant. But so Viserys is all over the place. and very like susceptible to, I don't know, I don't want to say other people's opinions, but he's just kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah, he is not sure of himself at all.
And when he starts to tell people who's like, when he has that moment with Jason, when the guy is trying to give him that fucking spear.
Oh my God. Yeah, he seems like mad that anybody would think he isn't ironclad in his devotion when he has been quite, I don't know, maybe it's that he isn't visibly wishy-washy, and that it's supposed to be that we're seeing that as the audience internally, but he isn't actually expressing that publicly.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I thought that everybody could just take one look at him and be like, that motherfucker is wishy-washy as hell. Like, just look at him go. But you're right. That might be just something the audience is picking up on. Because the other thing that everybody keeps saying to Viserys isn't even that they are thinking he's wishy-washy. It's that the birth of this son is like ironclad. Like, everybody is just like, well, of course.
Yeah.
He's like, there's not even it's a given. It's not even a question. Like, yeah, you named her heir, but that was before you had a son. Like, that doesn't even fucking count.
Yeah.
And then everyone seems really befuddled that Viserys isn't like taking this opportunity. Everybody is ready to give him a pass for this mistake of naming her, right? The whole realm is ready to be like, he didn't really have a choice. What else was he going to do, right?
Right.
We're gonna let him save face, pretend like that shit didn't happen. We're not gonna hold it against him as long as he names Aegon heir. And he seems really, really surprised. Viserys, I mean, he seems very surprised that everyone is acting this way. Why?
See, this is what I'm saying. All these fucking people in power acting like it's their first fucking day. And like they had no idea that people were going to express this, like, of course they are, dude. You just watched this happen with your sister. You just saw how this goes.
Wait, with his sister? Who's his sister?
Rhaenyra. Viserys' sister. And her being passed over. Oh, that's right. Whatever she is. He was there. He saw this happen, you know? And she might be his sister. God knows.
Girl.
So sorry. I think she's his aunt, but sure. But yeah, I'm just... The fact that there are so many moments where people seem surprised by things that the audience knows. And we have to sit through them being surprised by it. Like, really? Why? What is this adding?
I couldn't tell if he was surprised that people were like saying it to his face, or if he was like legit surprised that people were really feeling this way. I am begging the universe for it to just be like, he can't believe people have the balls to say it to his face. But I don't think that's really what's happening. I think he is legit surprised.
Yeah.
So for in that instance, I think you are 100% right. I don't think that my argument of I'm the most powerful person in the room, I can do whatever I want, bumping up against duties, is applicable here. Because in this instance, I feel like Viserys has known. It's been several years now since he named her that. I have to imagine this conversation and the whisperings and the discontent.
It had to have happened immediately.
Right? And hasn't gone away, and it's probably festering, you know? Yep. And then you have to imagine he marries Alicent, and then they have like this kid is 2 years old at this point. Viserys is acting like today is the first time anyone has said anything to him about his son being heir. Which I'm also, but all right, so we're jumping all over the place, but
yeah, this and thus the fact that Rhaenyra is acting out because she's so frustrated at the way she's been treated, but him acting like this is the first he's hearing of it, those don't go together. You know, like he seems genuinely baffled by her behavior.
Yeah.
But why? Everybody would have been saying this to him from the day of this kid's birth, immediately.
That's what my assumption was as well.
Yeah.
As soon as word came out that she had a boy, it was a wrap, and people were probably already, I'll say conspiring, but yeah, like already plotting, like relieved probably that the son was born. And I imagine that Rhaenyra has been living the last 3 years with all of that swirling around her, and this is why she is behaving the way we see her behave today. But if it's been swirling, that means Viserys, it was swirling around him too.
Yeah. And, you know, you could say that he's like kind of an oblivious dude, but I don't feel like oblivious. We haven't seen him be oblivious once people come to him with something. He'll be oblivious until they are like, all right, so now you have to remarry. And then he'll just be like, how dare you? But it's not like it just rolls over him and he doesn't notice they said it. It would have landed and he would be much more understanding of her position and her feeling like any second this is going to be taken away.
Yeah. I feel like they're definitely estranged since we saw them in the last episode. The marriage and the birth of the son has not helped at all. I'm assuming that he is not even really pretending to involve her as far as like preparing her for the throne. I imagine he's been basically just kind of absent. And he says as much later when he's yelling at her that she has grown like angry and alone, and says that, you know, she's basically been by herself these last couple years. So
I did really like when she says that the Lannister guy is like self-serious and arrogant, and he's like, yeah, I thought you might have something in common with that. And I was just like, oh shit. I did cackle at that.
When she meets Jason for the first time and he's out there, and he introduces himself and is, you know, telling her the grandeur of Casterly Rock and like just all the things. And he is, I mean, he's talking to, even though in his heart he doesn't believe it to be true, on his face he is talking to the future queen. And his game, it's not for a queen.
Yo.
This is so bad.
Some bar shit.
This is so bad.
Your dress would look better on my floor. Like, this is the level that I don't know what he's thinking he's doing. But
at one point he's talking about like if you stand on a hill or something, you can see like across the whatever. And he leans behind her and like waves out, but he's like just waving at the camp.
I mean, he's trying to paint a picture, a word picture, Rashawn. How dare you? It's not working? What do you mean?
Oh, it's so bad. It's just so bad. What does Viserys say about him in the episode? He says his pride has pride.
Yeah, which I think is supposed to be a lion joke.
You take that back right now.
What?
You take it back. You take it back. I refuse to watch a show that would make a joke that bad. I didn't even think about that. Oh my God.
Look, I just took it this way. That is not to say that I know what I'm talking about. Fair enough. But
oh my God.
I had a moment of like, oh, get it? Because of lions. That was definitely the way I heard it in my head. Just saying.
And then that fucking gif of that husky popped up. the pun husky.
The open mouth. Get it? Exactly.
This is when she goes back into her father and she's just like livid about this this marriage proposal and how it blindsided her, and they have this really awkward, unfortunate argument in front of the whole world. It is not a good look. It's very embarrassing for everybody involved. I had to cover my eyes a little bit because nobody wants to watch this.
Oh my God.
And then and they get like really loud and everybody is watching. Oh, I wanted to ask you who the guy is with the broken foot that sits down with the ladies. Is that the guy, the high tower that gets hurt in the joust?
That's
Daemon.
No, that's Strong's other son. strongly
gives
good advice.
Right.
One of his sons is the one that eyeballs her when she walks back in covered in blood and is like, word. And then there's this dude who I think he has a club foot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about that when he goes and sits with the ladies. And it was just like, it doesn't really mean anything, I guess, but it was just a moment, like, because he couldn't go on a hunt, he has to go sit with the ladies. And I was just like, there's a lot of other places he could be sitting. Just because his foot's fucked up, you could have a seat at the bar. There's a whole table of food right there.
Better game than the Lannister.
Right? I'm thinking that he chooses to sit there for a reason. And there's a lot of chit chat in those lady circles. So I was like, maybe I'm going to keep my eye on this guy. Because maybe he's just like getting all kinds of information. And maybe that comes back up later. But this is when she storms out, hops on her horse, makes a break for it. Kristen goes after her because he's a good boy.
Crispin.
I'm
sorry. Of course. I love the fact that I made the same mistake as Daemon, but obviously it was not a mistake in his case.
So yeah, they run out into the woods and he chases her and it's all very dramatic.
That's pretty much it. Correct.
It really is though, right? Mm-hmm. He like grabs her right as she's about to like go right into like a lake or some shit. And it's, but also we find out that in the 3 years since she's chosen him to join the Kingsguard and he's been her not body. I know it's a bodyguard, but they have a better way of saying it. I forget how
personal
fancy
guard.
It is. No, it's something really like her protector or something.
Man at arms.
Ooh,
I don't think that's it.
That makes me think of He-Man, but anyway,
man.
But clearly in the 3 years they have developed a very close relationship. That we didn't get to see, but there's a moment when she's just talking about this fucking Jason Lannister chump, and he's just like, "Would you want me? Do you want me to kill him?"
I love it.
Which is what a friend says, so we know that they are friends.
The "Do you want me to kill him?" gif gets a lot of action between lady friends.
It really does. I don't know if you out there understand that, but yeah. I honestly, actually, if you just go on TikTok, there's like whole fucking things where it's just women talking about how they would kill somebody for fucking with their bestie and how they would bury the body and no one would ever find them because they watch a lot of like ID Discovery and they know how to get rid of bodies and they listen to a lot of crime podcasts.
I just love that so
much.
Like,
dudes, you should probably be aware that it is not safe for you out here. And you should probably behave accordingly.
We have our way of dealing with things. Yep.
But yeah, so there's a little bit of background about Kristen, and she's just really, upset about this proposal situation and feeling really powerless. She doesn't even have say in her own life. And he tells her a very sweet thing about how choosing him changed his life dramatically, so don't like poo-poo the power that you have. And it's also like there's a lot of fucking people that be really jealous of your position and wouldn't mind trading places with you. And she's like, you know what, that's because they haven't been in my place. And I thought for a second, you know what, yeah. It's easy to want to trade places with somebody when you don't really know what their place entails,
I guess.
No,
I don't have much sympathy for royalty. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, fair enough.
I'm just like, oh, wow. It's so hard to be super rich just because your dad is making you marry somebody, which would happen to every woman in this place with a lot less, even less agency than you're getting.
Probably married to people with less money.
Exactly. And
also, Viserys is down 2 fingers.
Yeah.
In this episode, by the way, everybody.
He's fading away.
It does not look
Back to the Future shit.
Oh my god.
That was not worthy of that laugh, but I appreciate you.
I just pictured him in the Polaroid though.
Oh no.
But so yeah, it does not look good for our king, and I don't know I really have no idea how long he lasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he dies as a fairly young man, or does he live through all the shit that's going to come. Like, if this battle for who gets a throne really turns into a real sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Overt contest versus just like
contestation.
I was going to say that, but I didn't really like it. But you know, right now it's like bubbling under the surface, right? It's all like political and intrigue and whispers and insults. But if this thing ever becomes like an overt sort of war, is Viserys alive for that? Which for me, I'm curious, because I feel like as long as Viserys is alive and he's king and he says she's my heir, then no matter how much people don't like it, that's just kind of the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if he dies, then maybe it's not just the way it is. So I'm curious, does Viserys die before this is really settled? And then is that what sparks like the real sort of, I don't want to say the main point of the story, because I feel like it's all important, but I feel like we're moving towards something, right? And does Viserys get to be alive for it, or does he die and that's what like ignites everything? Because as long as he's on the throne and he's saying, you know, this is the thing, and my word is bond, like what's going to happen? Who's going to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Unless there's an actual like insurrection and they try to get him off. See, now my brain is all over the place. I hadn't really thought about that. Like in my mind, I was imagining that he dies and then that leaves sort of like a vacuum, and so many people aren't on board with Rhaenyra that they end up supporting someone else. But he doesn't have to die for that to happen, does he? There was a war when the Mad King went and he wasn't dead. Huh.
Well,
I just got myself thinking about some other shit, y'all. Sorry.
My goodness.
Huh. All right. Stay on page. I'm going to stay on this though. All right. So he gets Viserys just gets really drunk at the party.
Which I had said that I wish that they had made him more of a like party guy king, because that was what he was allegedly meant to be. And this isn't really what I meant, but I guess I'll take it.
This is he's at his own party. Well, it's not his own, it's his kid's party, right? But basically it's his party.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just getting drunker and drunker and seems just miserable.
Yeah.
And he is talking to Otto and whoever else will listen that really he's bummed out because his daughter is being so difficult. And what did he do to deserve such a difficult child? And why can't she be happy? And he just wants her to be happy. But that's not really what's happening.
Mm-mm.
He is torn up inside because he is reckoning with the fact that he's about to go back on what he swore to his daughter. And he feels like a piece of shit about it.
Mm.
And he's like fighting it, you know. And his friend and most valuable like consultant, you know, his best mate, his hand, what does he offer? I ask you, what does he bring to the table? How does he solve this problem?
Well, now I'm on the edge of my seat. Please tell me.
Marry your 17-year-old daughter to her 2-year-old half-brother. And that will just solve everything.
Look, I know it doesn't sound great. But to be honest, this would solve a lot of problems. And low-key, this is the way Jaehaerys decided to approach this shit. Jaehaerys, didn't want to name his daughter his heir. So he was like, she'll become queen because she'll marry her brother. So it'll accomplish the same thing, but I don't have to name her heir. But she'll still get what she's after and what she's due, and I don't have to take a stand about it.
Really?
Yeah. And then that just obviously didn't quite do.
I guess not, because he ends up having that big council, and that's how they end up picking the heir.
Because I think that was a different daughter. I think the one that was initially going to be his heir died. It's a whole thing. He had a lot of children. Nah. That woman was pushing him out fucking every year. But a betrothal to an infant is not unheard of. This is certainly
it should be
done. It should. It is what it is.
I guess Otto made some good points because he's like, it would buy time, right? Mm-hmm. It's gonna put it's gonna dead all of these offers and all of these proposals. It's gonna take them all off the table and give Rhaenyra like 10 to 12 years, right?
Yeah.
But I still, it's funny. Over the last episode, I was all like, okay, so I understand the conceits of this show, and I understand that sometimes old men have to marry little girls, and I accepted at this point. And then the next episode of the show was like, word, you accept it? All right, then.
Let's see how hard you accept that shit then. So yeah, this is, and I can completely understand Viserys personally being like, oh no, I'm not doing that. But this is not unheard of, and it would solve the problem. This is actually not bad advice. And they marry brother to sister historically.
That's true. That's true.
Like,
maybe I'm just hating out of spite because I can't stand Otto Hightower. I'm just shitting on his ideas. Period.
You're hating from a modern perspective because it's horrifying. Like, it just is, and I'm not trying to pretend it's not. But in terms of the precedent of all this, it's all been done, and it really isn't like. I think that Viserys' response is unwarranted because this is really something that has been done before. The expectation, actually, when a Targaryen gave birth to a son and daughter, was that those two were going to be married eventually. Like,
yeah,
that was usually what happened. So
even with that great,
they're not even as related.
What's getting me is the age difference, really, and the fact that this baby is 2, and not so much that they're like brother and sister. Because I understand like intermarriage and the families, I get that, but I'm not gonna. I have to say when he leaned in and recommended that, I could have just rolled right off the couch.
Well, I told you the story about the little girl that comes in and captures his heart, and he's like,
you did
16 and she's 6.
Oh, was he only 16? In my imagination, he was much older when the children are being born.
I don't really honestly quite remember his age, but I feel like he was like late teens.
And talked about how like she sparkled or some shit. And
that's Mushroom who says that.
Oh,
yeah,
ugh.
Mushroom. He's got a lot.
But all right. So once I get out of my feelings, this plan that Otto has offered does solve multiple problems. It gives Rhaenyra breathing space so she can stop being worried about having to marry every motherfucker that shows up.
Yep.
It calms everybody down. It also shores up the succession. The thing is, let me I can't remember if Otto is suggesting that, or does it even matter which one is king, or queen, if the 2 brothers and sisters are, married? Like, does Otto, I can't remember if it's important if Otto is like, well, Aegon can be king, but Rhaenyra will be married to him, and so it kind of like saves face for her as well. I don't remember if that's even a thing.
Yeah, that's, at least that was how it was going to work with Jaehaerys. He was like, well, she'll still get to be queen. I just won't have to like make the hard choice of naming her my heir.
All right.
Because,
so with thinking about that, then this is still making things easy for Viserys, right? Appeasing the populace by naming Aegon heir to the throne, and then just sort of throwing Rhaenyra a bone, but not giving her what was promised.
Not exactly. Like, you can technically say you are.
Yeah, technically.
And what's unclear to me is because of the way they've decided to change everybody's sort of understanding of what the expectation is from them as monarchs, the conceit of Targaryens being married brother to sister is fully accepted in the books, but I don't know whether she would completely balk at this. It might just be that she balks at the age difference even. Or she could balk at the fact that she can see that it's him trying to sort of have his cake and eat it too.
Right. Yeah. Because there's a part of me that feels like if she could, and I'm not saying that she should, right? I'm not saying because, you know, fucking knees were bent, you know, proclamations were made. She wore a really badass cloak and a crown and shit, you know, promises were made. But that aside, she makes it very clear, at least in this episode, that she doesn't really have any interest in being married at all. And I think she said, and I don't know if we're supposed to think that's because she's young or if that's really inherent to who she is, where she just is not interested in any of that. She doesn't want to be married. She doesn't want to have children. So this sort of fake marriage to her brother frees her from that, right? But I feel like eventually the expectation would be to have children because that's what the fuck you do, right? You gotta have kids. So even if they try to make this like it was an out and a way for her to escape this sort of drudgery of being married off to some high lord, she still has to produce children, which she doesn't seem like she has any interest in doing. So she doesn't get the throne. She gets married. She's still expected to like pop out some babies. I don't see how they think that this is the, you know, great plan
solution
for her. You know what I mean?
Has she expressed that she doesn't want marriage and babies to them? Do they know this? I can't remember who she says that to.
She says it to her mom in the first episode, and then I don't think babies come up again. But then, she screams a couple times in this episode that she doesn't want to get married.
Gotcha.
But like I said, that could be maybe have meant to be sort of a childish part of her, you know. When her mom is telling her about, you know, childbirth being the battlefield for women, and she's like, well, I'd rather ride a dragon into battle. I'm not interested in any of that. So that could be very well something that she grows up and out of, you know. For all I know, she gets married and has like 7 or 8 babies, and then they all fight for the throne. I don't know.
I have to say, I do really enjoy how you say something and then immediately are like, or the exact complete opposite of that could happen. Because this is actually how I work also.
It's just like, you know, there's so much like open that I just don't like, I don't have any idea where things are going. So he's sitting and he's at his own party and he's sitting alone getting very, very drunk, and everybody is in the room and they're laughing and they're having a good time, and he is just so separate from it. And this is after Otto leaves. He drinks some more, and then I believe this is where our man shows up and offers him this alternative plan, right? So first he's offered the plan of, hey, just marry your daughter to your new son, and then our man Lionel Strong comes and is giving an update. You know, we haven't really found Rhaenyra yet, but, you know, Kristen went out with her. I'm sure they're okay. Viserys starts whining about how difficult her child is. He says something like, if I told her she couldn't marry Jason Lannister, she would have ran out of here and married him tonight or something like that.
100%. I do feel like he's right about that. And maybe that's not being fair to her, but I mean, she does seem to just kind of want to oppose him because inherently.
Yeah, she just seems to be like just contrarian for like no reason. So then Lionel Strong offers his plan, and his plan is another marriage. And it is for her to marry, is his name Lena? What's his name? It's the daughter is Lena, and I think the son is Laenor.
I want to say Lenore, but Lenore
like
is a woman's name.
Like the Edgar Allan Poe?
Yeah. Oh, Lenore. I just channeled some Simpsons right there.
Was that what that was?
Yeah, you know how he says. You know what he says. Oh, Lenore. She laughs because she knows that's how it goes.
I do. It is how it goes.
But yeah, it's Corlys is a son.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be also extremely smart.
And this is brilliant. And it's giving him a do-over for fucking up the first time. You know, this is a do-over. This is an opportunity to make all the amends that you should have made the first time that you basically just squandered away.
Yep.
You're going to heal the rift between Lionel's talking about specifically like the houses like Valerian?
Yeah.
House Valerian. But it feels like he's also meaning like beyond them, right? Like, I guess there are people who support, like we had in that very first episode with the Baratheon, there are people out in this world that still low-key support Rhaenys and kind of feel like she got robbed, right? And that it is more than just Rhaenys and Corlys being salty about it. That there are like, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there are folks out there that are like, yo, if you made a run for it, we would have your back. So when he's talking about bridging this gap, it feels really important. You know, it feels like this is a way to shore up the whole kingdom, you know, and help with, you know, they're a very wealthy house. We're mentioning this again, you know, their great pedigree. We're mentioning all the things, all the arguments that he had a couple of years ago. And I said to myself, this is a plan.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
That was pretty much how I felt about it. I said, you know, here he comes again. This Lionel Strong, you know, quietly, thoughtfully, not all gross and leaning in and whispering in his ear. I don't know why that bothers me, but it really does.
He's a sidler. Yeah, I mean, and we get to see his son, and he's like pretty badass actually. So, for his age, yeah.
And what do you mean for his age? Oh, well, you're talking about like, yeah, got you.
Yeah.
So then Viserys is drunk. And
you
he
just
goes
got
out
so
to
offended on his behalf.
I did. I was.
What do you mean by that? You people. What does that mean?
I don't know why I was so offended.
Oh God.
So then Viserys goes out to the bonfire with Alicent, and he's talking about, you know, his prophecies and his dreams and you know, his regrets, and you know, maybe he's been too beholden to this fantasy, you know, and that's cost him everything. And then I think we have Rhaenyra at her own bonfire right before this or right after this is right when she said with Kristen, and is that when the boar attack happens?
I don't.
Or is that a little bit later?
I think that's a little bit later. Yeah, later. Or wait, nope, I lie.
It's before.
Yeah, it does happen before. I completely missed that. Yeah. And she stabs the shit out of that thing. She really goes fucking ham.
She really does. Like, it shows up, and Kristen is at first, she's no ham. Shut up! Oh my God, I can't believe I almost missed that thing of beauty. Oh, how sad that would have been for me.
Oh, I thought you had missed it. I just decided to snicker on my own behalf off in the corner. I'm glad it sank through. Good.
Oh, I would have regretted it if I had missed it. I really would have. So then it's the next morning. Our king, he had a rough night. And now he's got to kill this deer. It isn't even the deer that was promised. You know, it is some lackluster deer, some no name.
This is so embarrassing to watch. I hated
hard to watch.
It's like, on behalf of the deer, it's just so cruel, and like there's no nobility to this at all. But then just like, as like a hunter, like
they tracked it for him. They are holding it in place for him. Mm-hmm. It is they have removed everything that's supposed to be the thing about hunting. Mm-hmm. They have taken whatever it is that appeals to people about hunting, that is completely scrubbed. And he might as well have just walked into a zoo and shot something in the head with a gun. You know, they ain't called it hunting.
I don't know why that mental image is so hilarious.
But that's what it is, right? Like,
that's fucked up, but that is hilarious. Oh, yep.
So this is just, I don't understand why any of this is supposed to be like inspiring or high class or noble or anything. And then the pathetic little applause afterwards.
Oh my God.
And so he doesn't
clap.
get it.
He's a fucking
Jeb Bush. We should start calling him Viserys Jeb Bush in all ways. Like, if you talk about like a dynasty, if they were the Bushes, fucking Jeb. Yeah, right.
Can you believe there was a dynasty that was the Bushes?
Listen, girl, we let anything happen in America. We let any fucking thing happen in this country.
Oh my God. No. Anyway, sorry. Distracted by that.
So he doesn't even get it on the first stab. He has to use this ridiculous spear that's got a pom-pom on it for some reason, which I don't understand, but
this is the one that he brought for him, the Lannister. Mm-hmm. This is like his little present, and he's like, "Oh, you can use the spear I gave you." And I was just like, "Oh my God, dude."
It looks almost like a mop. Like it's got like the red and gold like floof around it.
Yeah,
right
the floof.
The floof. Mm-hmm. And it's almost right beneath the tip of the spear. Mm-hmm. So when he uses it, all of that decoration just gets soaked in blood. Like, why? What are we doing? Put that towards the other end. Like, why would you put it there? But whatever.
Maybe they hope it soaks up all the blood for a little snack later.
Oh my God, stop it.
They just suck on it.
I think there's like a real reason to. Like, somebody will be like, well, so the blood doesn't, soak all the way down and get your hands dirty. Oh, that might be it.
I mean, maybe.
But
I love that you said that as a joke, and you're like, actually, but
it might be, right? Yeah. Like, now I say it out loud.
Yeah.
So all he has to do is stab this thing in the heart. Someone points to like where he should do it, and he is weak, and I think hungover. Though
there's definitely that.
I read this really weird take that he was like having a flashback to the scene with Emma, and that's why he has such a hard time with this. No, I was like, I don't think that's it at all. Stop it right now.
Somebody is trying to read a little bit too hard into some shit.
But he gets it on the second go round, and they clap, and it's pitiful. And I feel like this was the thing too. This was like the whole reason they're in the woods. This was the big moment. And it was such like a letdown for, I think, everybody involved. And I feel like that is telling me something really important about about everything that's going on in the show.
So then we cut to Rhaenyra, and she's sitting looking out on the expanse of the hills and whatnot with leaves and blood in her hair. And the camera slowly pans around, and there is the white stag, which I have to admit, I didn't realize it was white initially because it's in such shadow. And I just assumed that it was white because that's probably what they were wanting to do. But yes, it is the white stag. And it's sort of interesting because, again, we have the syndrome of, I guess nobody knows anything, so that a person has to explain it to a person who really should know. But she is regarding this white stag like it's extremely meaningful. But Otto had to like tell Viserys why this was a big deal.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. When Otto says it to Viserys, I personally didn't take it as if Viserys didn't know this was a thing. I took it as Otto just sort of, like when I tell you, girl, Mercury is in retrograde. Like, I know you know what that means, right? I'm just commenting on a thing. I understand that you know what that means, right? So I feel like
he explains it. Do you remember how he says it?
He just says, I'm not really into like portents and stuff, but it's a really good omen. And it's like the gods are blessing this day or something.
No, he's like, historically, this was the symbol for the house before Targaryens landed.
Oh, no, that's the huntsman guy you're talking about. I'm sorry, I was talking about Otto.
Oh, I thought that was Otto that says that. So it's a different person who tells them.
Yeah, he's just telling the king that back before the Targaryens were here, the white blah, blah, blah means such and such. You're right. They are explaining that to him. Is that when Otto is then like, oh, especially good portent, or is that different? Especially
on his name day, like, yeah, he just basically underlines, can you imagine?
Gotcha.
On his name day, how significant. And like, again, I understand the necessity of this, but it's very jarring for me because it just, everything sort of contradicts each other, because here there's a sense of her knowing exactly what the fuck this means. And should she? I don't know. But
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I 100% got that she understood as much as like I may have read into the scene after hearing this guy explain to me what it means, right? I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to think she got it, or if she's just supposed to be touched by the
communing with nature.
And this sort of the rarity of getting to spot this thing, right? Like, she does know, I think, that they're here on a hunt for this thing, right? This, that's the whole reason we're here. And that she gets to see one, even if it's not like the one, she gets to see one. So I feel like she has an understanding that, oh, this is rare,
Right.
But I don't know if she's supposed to be feeling like it's a sign from the universe. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I know that Kristen was ready to pull his sword out though, and she had to be like, she had to be like, no, it's fine, relax.
I was hoping that she would mention seeing it to her dad, because I feel like he is clearly somebody who's kind of superstitious and unsure of himself. And if we need him to be sure of himself, I feel like that would really do the job. Yeah.
But yeah. And I think maybe the fact that she doesn't share that with him, I guess that could be taken either way. Maybe that's the evidence that she doesn't think it's significant in that way, because she doesn't know. She didn't get to hear that little bit of lore. Maybe that is, sort of tells us what we need to know about that. Or it could be that she does believe it and knows it somehow and has decided to hold on to that for herself. I don't know. All right. So then we get they're back home, and Otto is in the fucking chambers telling his daughter that basically it's up to her to save the entire realm, and she better make her husband name her son king, or everything is gonna like just end up in fire. Which is pretty much what he says. Like, the realm is going to tear itself apart. It doesn't matter how good of a queen she could be. It doesn't matter. She is a woman, and that is all he has to say about that. There's a bit where when he actually even says that Aegon is being robbed, which I was just like, yo, men are the worst. What are you doing? The child is being robbed. Okay. But and she is listening to this, and she's putting up like a little bit of defense, and I wouldn't want to do that. I don't want to raise my son to rob his sister, and et cetera, et cetera. And then literally the next scene, she's walking in to see the king, and we find on her way, in my opinion, to start this very conversation that her father has begged her to have.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a letter. So the conversation gets a little sidetracked.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious how she would have handled this because her father is so insistent and she clearly like doesn't feel what he feels about it. But is she just going to be like the dutiful daughter and do what she's told? I don't know. But yeah, he's talking about the Stepstones, and this is started by two malcontents unhappy with the decision I made. He calls them malcontents. I don't know why I think that's so funny, but yeah, she asks him straight up, what do you believe? And he says that I am forever doomed to anger one person by pleasing another. Which, yeah, that's kind of being king. So I guess that Daemon's saying it was never his strong suit.
Yeah, it
Makes
really
sense.
does. We're really starting to see that it doesn't seem like that he is necessarily cut out for this.
Mm-hmm.
When Alicent first comes in and they're talking about Rhaenyra, and he again is just talking about how difficult she's being. There's a bit where Alicent is like, yeah, I told you she was not going to take any of that well.
Yeah.
But you just opted not to listen to me, or you didn't believe me, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then she tries to calm him down, and she's just like, she will marry. Like, that it just will be. So why are you, so stressed out about it? And then, then we start talking about the Stepstones, and we see the letter. It is someone we have not met yet, really, that has sent this letter.
Mm-hmm.
It is Corliss's brother.
Yeah.
Who is pleading
Talk about
with
a
the
malcontent.
crown. Right? He is going sort of, going behind both his brother and Daemon's back, right? And ask the king to step in and help because they are losing, and they are losing badly. And what you were about to say, Alicent ends up asking him a question about, like, what would you rather have? Like, what's good for the realm? What's good for the crown?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides that he's going to help. And he has a meeting with Rhaenyra. And she does the whole, it's of no consequence what I think, as I am often reminded. And he is just like, oh my fucking God. Can we just do our jobs? That's all. Oh, I'm so tired. And I just really felt him on this because I was pretty sick of her at this point. I have to admit. And this is when we have the overall, like, I recommit to naming you as heir in your mother's memory.
Yeah. It's pretty strong promise he's made there with no witnesses as far as I can tell.
Yeah, there's when he was talking to Alicent by the fire, he says that he was motivated by grief to name her heir. So I kind of looked askance at him being like, I'm doing this in your mother's memory, because I was like, yeah, but that's like what you did before. And you still really regretted it. Maybe don't just go ahead and like approach it that way again. But what can you do? That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's got some, I don't know. I haven't quite parsed it out, I think he really does have real and true affection for his daughter. I think that this Viserys that we're getting on a TV show also desperately wants to be the type of king that can make this happen and doesn't care about the consequences. Right? Like, I think that this is like, in his imagination, it's his best version of himself, and he would very much like to live up to it. However, that is not as easy as one might think it is.
Yeah.
And the easy parts are so tempting. Oh, you got a new wife now. You got a son that everybody loves and would not give you any problem if you named him that, you know? Remember that dream he used to have? Like, all that shit is like whispering in his ear like its own Otto Hightower. And and there's like a real conflict in him that he wants to be this better person, this better father, this better king. But I mean, we always end up talking about kind of how weak he is, though, you know? So now he's had his week night, you know, he got too drunk and blah, 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 blah. And now he's feeling strong again. So he's going to send help to Daemon. He's going to reaffirm his commitment to his daughter until the next time.
So you think this is just not going to last at all?
His commitment to seeing her on the throne? I'm not convinced that he won't be swayed again and that he won't waver again.
Yeah, that's
fair. I'm not convinced that that, you know, she's pregnant. Allison is pregnant. I don't know if that has any bearing. I mean, the real matter is always like the firstborn, right? So him having any additional children doesn't necessarily add or take away from anything. But I'm curious.
There is what they call the heir and a spare, which is to have a backup, basically, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen.
Right. So yeah, I think we might see him waver again. Yeah. But so then we go to the Stepstones.
We see Daemon's dramatic ass.
Oh my God, you guys. So you guys watched it. You know what happened.
I would love it if that's just where we ended the show, the podcast. We were just like, I don't know, guys. You all watched it. You know how this went. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
They are, you know, back against the wall. All these fine ass men in this armor looking like they're just ready to beat the shit out of somebody.
Rashawn has the same problem I have. Everybody.
We meet Corliss's brother, who's the one who wrote the letter, and he is just telling everybody to their face that we should be out of here, and that Daemon has lost his fucking mind, and he is nobody we should be following.
Yep.
And in the middle of all this talking shit about Daemon, who shows up?
Who should walk in the door going, I heard my name. You talking about me? Was it good? What'd you say?
That fucking meme. I thought a bitch said something.
Yep.
But so he makes this entrance right as everyone is like, you know, strategizing and basically calling Daemon a liability. Corlys has to check his brother and be like, you have to be real careful talking about shit in front of everybody. You know, I'm not going to let you start a mutiny.
Yep.
Daemon rolls up, and before he can really even engage in what's on the table and what everybody's been talking about, or even share like a plan, these men from King's Landing show up.
Yeah. And they have a letter that one would think is good news. One
would have thought. I thought it was the glad tidings. I was mistaken.
Yeah, he is not happy about it.
And also, I just want to mention really quickly that right before, everybody has been talking shit about Daemon, right? So everybody is staring at him like, what is he going to do? Like, everybody is staring at him. Even before the letter shows up. So, what he does next, he just answered everybody's questions.
Yep. He reads the letter and he beats the ever-loving shit out of the messenger.
Yeah, which everyone says don't do.
With his helmet. Which is, it didn't happen here, but it does in the books. He does beat a messenger quite badly.
Wait, what do you mean it didn't happen here?
Like, in the books, the messenger it's not this messenger. It's a messenger bringing him other news.
I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
I think actually it might be somebody who came to tell him that Alicent had a male child, I think that might be the news that made him just lose his mind. But yeah, this
right.
is very much within his character to react this way.
So we find out from the letter, like a voiceover deal, that Viserys is sending 2,000 men, like 10 or 20 ships, and that he has no desire to see his brother die and fail in his cause. And he's like, doesn't apologize for the estrangement, but hopes that this victory will aid in bringing them kind of closer together.
Mm-hmm.
All again, I say, it even says something about how he's going to pray for his like safety and shit.
Yeah.
All in all, a lovely, albeit late letter. And Daemon decides that instead of everything that Viserys has planned, what we are going to do is just march down there by myself.
And take care of business.
And pretend to surrender. And in all the Impossible Man shit that we get throughout this genre and many others, I'm not particularly hung up on how ridiculous this is.
Same.
I enjoyed every Rickon meme that I saw, though, about zigzagging.
Oh my God, I swear.
That was delightful.
People are fucking ruthless out here in these streets.
But one of the things I will say is when I was watching this, you know, and there's definitely big, like, this motherfucker is like, he's a badass, right? This is like, you know, real big dick energy. But also, low key, I think Daemon was kind of like, I don't even care if I live.
There is a sense of that. Like,
right?
I'll be damned if I take his help.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather die,
first.
Fine. But at least I succeeded without fucking taking his help.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does feel like oh my God, I'm sorry. I got distracted by the close up of the Crabfeeder. Y'all, he is fucked up. Yo, his face is a mess. Yikes. But yeah, this doesn't feel like Daemon the hero running in to win the day. It feels like I'm running in to do what the fuck I do, and this shit might not even work out, but I don't even care. Kind of thing, which is very different energy for me. So yeah, he goes in and just fucking handles everybody's business until it looks like he is really surrounded and outnumbered, and like this is like he's not going to make it out of this, you know?
Yeah.
He has a really good run. He takes a bunch of guys down. He takes arrows. You know, it's all like, oh, he's going to like save the day. And then he gets surrounded, and it really does look like that's a wrap for Daemon. And then everybody comes like over the hillside, you know, all the cavalry comes. And then we get dragons.
Dragon!
We get a new dragon, y'all. A new dragon. What a black guy riding it. Listen, I'm not going to do a whole thing. I want to do a whole thing at some point about how ridiculous it is to be associated with sort of science fiction and fantasy at my age on the internet, because I missed the times where I wasn't aware of how ridiculous white people would be about casting non-white people in their fantasies, right? I wasn't aware that that was a thing until the internet made me aware of it. And I'm so fucking tired of it. I really am. I'm tired of these fucking bullshit explanations and justifications because they want to say a whole dissertation instead of just admitting that they're fucking racist or they just don't want black people in their fun shit, right? But even though it is not important in any way to the story that we are being told, I am not going to sit here and pretend like I didn't like have a moment being like, oh shit, that's a black guy on a dragon. Like, we get to be a part of this, you know? It may not be important to the narrative, as far as I can tell so far. The color, air quotes, of this, and not even all the Valerians. It's just Corlys and his family. You know, they're like Valerians that are in this army. They're not all black. You know, they're all different colors. So it's not like race is playing a role in this story in the way that we generally think of race as playing a role. It's just them being there. Yeah, they're just there. You know, and I, for one, appreciated and enjoyed it and really did
welcome our dragon overlords.
It was really, for me, I watched The Ring of Power too, which is another property that's having the same bullshit conversation. I also watched Sandman, had the same bullshit conversation. I'm so fucking tired of it. But I am glad that they are doing these things with casting, because you know what? It does matter. It just does. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say. It just fucking does. So yeah, having that black boy Joy whooping it up on his derpy ass. Did you see the close-ups of that dragon? Have you seen any of this?
Oh God.
I will see if I can find one for you and send it to you when we're done. His dragon is got like, he's smiling. Like just the way.
Oh my God.
And when you see it up close, he looks like, just like, somebody sent me, when I saw a post, and then under the same post someone put a picture of like baby Godzilla. I forget what his name was, and it's like the same energy. It is so fucking funny. I have to find it and show it to you. But it is, his dragon is just so happy to be here. He's just like, hey guys.
I did not catch that at all. Oh,
I have to find it for you. I don't want to like.
I'm watching the scene right now as he's being surrounded, and then the crab feeder like looks up at the sky and realizes, and then all of a sudden there's just flame everywhere. So I think I must be about to see that dragon's face. Oh my God.
Do you see it?
Yes. Oh, that's what Arya looks like when I scratch her head in the right spot.
Isn't it the best?
Where she's just like very dangerous, and I definitely respect that, but also she's 100% actually smiling a human smile right now. That's wonderful.
It was, I loved it so much. That's the other fun thing too about this whole bit, is that apparently the crab feeder, like us, was not aware that there were going to be more dragons showing up. So having Daemon on the ground means Daemon's not on his dragon, right? So it's safe to come out.
Yeah, I had forgotten that they're not just like a car where somebody could borrow it and drive it and give it back. Which I have to admit is how I've been seeing this all this time. It's just, why doesn't somebody else just fly it?
Yo, let me borrow your dragon real quick. I gotta run to the store. I just gotta quick run to Target. Can I pick you up anything? Someone made a comment about watching House of Dragon and seeing the dragon riders with like these proper like saddles and shit, and feeling really bad for Daenerys because she was just literally holding on the scales for her dear life.
She's got her hands all around the spines and everything, and I'm just like, that is not comfortable, and it doesn't have to be like this, but I guess nobody kept the records of how to make a dragon saddle.
Lost to the ages.
Yeah.
I mean Tyrion could have if he wanted to. He drew up that thing for Bran.
That's true. That's true. Maybe that'll be in the books. It wasn't in the show, but maybe book Tyrion is going to be like, look, Daenerys, it doesn't have to be this way. Give me like a week and I'll have something for you. So, that dragon, by the way, is called Sea Smoke.
Sea Smoke, which is a great name for a dragon that would belong to, House
the son of the sea snake.
It's very nice, very nice. And I have some questions. I mean, I guess, like I said, for this plan to have worked, they had to believe the dragons weren't on the table because Daemon was like right in front of them. So I guess this is the first time they broke out Sea Smoke for this. Then my question becomes, why though?
Yeah,
what were you waiting for? So I don't know, but it works. This ridiculous plan does work. And while they are fighting, man to man, and Sea Smoke is, wrecking shop from up top, Daemon is on a more personal mission. He wants that touch, that the
little sprinkle of sea salt on the end.
He wants that, and he just goes running into the cave, and we don't see it, but he comes out dragging like 3/5 of the crab feeder.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Right,
with his guts all drobbling around.
They really are
the
like
new word for that, by the way.
Drobbling. Like it's the contestants, just his bowels were just all displayed. And the episode ends with a close up of Daemon, like just covered in blood, looking like I thought y'all had something to say. And I want to end the episode with a special shout out to our old friend Ryan Reisman, who I caught in the wild on the old internet on a public post.
Oh my God, I forgot about this.
Some guy on a public fucking post was just like, I've been watching TV for so long, I don't buy any off-screen death. What if, hear me out, Daemon bribed the Crabfeeder and that they are now somehow in cahoots, and I just don't trust that he's really dead. To which, you know how when you're on Facebook, you'll just see your friends comment if it's like a page you don't really follow, and just you know, and it just said, "Bro, what?" And I fucking screamed. I laughed so hard.
Like,
this motherfucker.
Look, if he took a swing with his sword and the camera cut away, and later he turned out to be alive, fine. This man's intestinal tract is wobbling. What was the word I used? Drobbling. On full display with his face visible, mask on. There is nobody who's going to look enough like that poor man to mistake him. What do you think is happening?
Somebody in the group was like, yeah, they're going to like put him on his hip, and then somebody shared like a baby Bjorn picture. And
I can't remember who it was, but she said put him atop his hip, and there was something about the atop that really fucking got me, and I started cracking up so bad.
People were talking about like treating him like he's a ventriloquist dummy.
Take this act on the road. So yeah, this, oh my God, did you see that post about somebody being like, the AV Club posted about how the Crown is going to be taking a recess after the unexpected death of the Queen.
I did see that. I think you posted it. I saw your screenshot.
Yeah, somebody's like, they didn't see this coming. She's 96, for God's sake. Eye roll. They should have been more prepared. What do people think television is? Like, genuinely, what does that even look like to you, being prepared for this? What are you thinking when you say that? Do you even know?
She is thinking like when a newspaper has a headline prepared.
That's about it.
30 Rock, when Jenna finds out they have like roll ready for like the important people dying, but they don't have one for her.
Yes. I just, and I was like, yeah, you're right. It's really wild how they didn't have that prepared. And then later on, somebody replied to them, I'm sure they would have implemented a plan in case blah, blah, blah. But they may also be choosing to pause out of respect. And they replied, pause out of respect makes total sense for like a day or two.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about? People are fucking morons. And I did get that reply from Ryan Reisman to that screenshot of just, he says, I'm sticking to my TV and movie groups. Regular people who watch TV seem to be dumb as dick, which dumb as dick is just funny. That's just a good one. But yeah, he is not wrong about that.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, so that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. Fuck,
dun,
bitch,
dun.
it's 6 o'clock.
I know. Guys, we have another recording
now.
in an hour.
I've got to dressed and whatnot because it's video.
I need to eat something.
Yep, that too. Fuck. All right, kids.
Well, I'm just going to say hi to new patrons real quick. So just give me a moment here. Do you have any predictions for what you think is happening next episode? Have you been spoiled on anything? Because there is a lot flying around out there right now. Like in terms of not even like book spoilers, but just like plans for the show. I wasn't sure what you've seen.
I haven't heard anything about what the show is doing, and I don't watch the next episode things. There is a list of the episode titles, and I haven't even read all of those yet.
Okay.
For book stuff, I've seen a couple of weird things, but they're like really out of context. Like that picture I sent you, that meme of like Book Allison versus TV Allison. So I get an idea that her characterization is different, but not really like plot points. Yeah, I think basically the stuff that I did know I shared in our first episode.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say hi to I was going to say Kylan Anderson and Tracy wait, I'm about to mispronounce this one too. Tracy Cataldo. Welcome, both of you, to the Unspoiled family. I hope that you guys are part of the groups and stuff already, but if you're not, you should be. And there's a spoiler chat in the Discord for talking about House of the Dragon that has been pretty active right after each episode drops. So it's easy to avoid if you haven't watched it, and it's easy to join if you want to talk. And I also have a seasonal channel that's about to pop off because it's Halloween month. It's the start of Halloween month tide. I don't know how to call something that's 2 months technically. Like a fortnight is 2 weeks. A month is 30 days. Is there anything for 2 months? A fort month?
Sure, why not?
I'm going to call it a fort month. It's time for Halloween fort month. So that just sounds like I'm talking about a fort for Halloween, but you get it.
A little bit.
So yeah, there's just Discord has been fun. I'm sharing all of my decorations and whatnot because y'all know I go too far. But I hope that you guys enjoy the patrons only content. Those of you listening, if you're interested, you get early and ad-free episodes on Patreon for $5 and up. And then $10 and up, you get to join us live when we record Ted Lasso and Sookie Stackhouse. And $20, and that also comes with a postcard. And then $20 and up are the Unsober episodes, which is what we are about to record right after this. And that is going to be about tarot. So that's this month's episode. And the second one of the month, I think we said was going to be about 90s fashion.
Finally.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We love you very much. And until next week, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.